Okay, bit of a different video. I just wanted to do this for fun. Just finished editing my match with Roby. It's something I've wanted to do for a little bit. So we're just going to do it one shot, see how it turns out. This is going to be tier ranking all level 1 creatures and explaining a little bit why I think they're in the tier they're in. Obviously, this is a big topic of discussion, so if you have any thoughts or comments about it, put in the comments down below. And I think before I get started actually ranking them, I made a bit of a joke about how the best thing about certain level 1 creatures is that they can be used to play level 2 creatures. And I actually think that applies to basically all level 1 creatures. I would have 3 of the worst level 1s compared to 1 of the best level 1s because it means I get to play more level 2 creatures. So obviously, in all cases, you kind of want more level 1s than less if your economy and your card draw can handle it. So, just want to put that out there before we jump in, but let's jump right in. I'm just going to try to do this one take, tier ranking these, just going in order, starting with Montego. And Montego goes in F tier. Sorry. Not starting off strong here. Not really sorry either. Yeah, Montego, like I said, one of the best things about level 1s is that you can use them to play level 2s. That's basically one of the only things you can use Montego for. Obviously, he does get stronger as the round goes on, assuming you're actually losing rounds. He can be used to play some pretty beefy level 2s if you evolve him. But otherwise, I think board disruption is a bit more strong, and he just doesn't do much else. So, yeah, Montego is going in F tier. Okay, moving right along, we have Brookie. Brookie's an A tier. I love Brookie. Brookie is like the epitome of level 1 backline disruption. You want to play him, you want to always be pulling your opponent's level 1s off the sideline. If you play him every round, starting round 2, you're stopping your opponent from playing 3 level 2s potentially, and potentially that can become 2 level 3s. So we can do a lot of economic damage to your opponent's economy if you can play him every round. So play him every round, run Brookie, he's great. A tier. All right, next up, Felixir. D. I think Felixir is F tier. Felixir does make your opponent think a little bit, but it has a lot of downsides because the retreat is not optional. So if you lose action advantage and you pass before your opponent, you can just push your Felixir straight into the discard. Yeah, when you need them the most to provide their power, they're never there. So I think they're F tier. I don't think they're as bad as Montego, but they're pretty bad. They're a big liability to run. Okay, that's Felixir. Moving right along, we got Daereap. I'm gonna put Daereap in B tier. He's a very specific combo piece. Not something you can just throw in any deck, but when he's in a deck that uses him well, he's really good. And he's, any sort of spirit discard synergy, he's right there. He can punish your opponent if they don't have the right counter. He can really hurt, kind of your opponent's action economy. Obviously, if you misplay him, he hurts your action economy. So a little tricky, but still a very good combo piece. I think belongs in B tier. Okay. Moving right along, we got Naru. Number 5, Naru. He's S tier. Oh! What is that? Alright, Naru's S tier. I think maybe one, if not the best, level 1 creature, just because he turns every other level 1 creature into a Montego. You can use him to basically counter whatever your opponent has just by default, so just playing him is so good. He just automatically does stuff. Shuts down your opponent's level 1 plans. And he's 3 power. He gets pretty beefy. He has a little bit of an anti-synergy with Zimble, but that's usually okay, I think. Yeah, Naru is great. Solid S tier. Maybe the best level 1, arguably. Okay. Venwurm. Moving right along. Venwurm is number 6. I'll put him in B tier too. He's a big chunky body, and he shuts down Zimble. Is basically the thing that he does really well. He gives you a lot of peace of mind when you're playing against a Zimble if you have a Venwurm in hand and you can just get the Venwurm out. Requires an answer if the opponent wants to actually play Zimble, and Zimble's spoiler. Zimble's a very good card, so countering made a very good card is pretty good. So B tier, probably not just like an auto include, but definitely be on the sideboard if you want to catch an opponent who runs Zimble, which a lot of them do. Okay, moving right along. Number 7, Olivkron. Also an S tier. Olivkron is very good. He makes your opponent think about their plays. He can shut down creatures much larger than him. Late game, he's very strong. If you can have an Olivkron and that slows your opponent down from playing like a Montego, or gives you a turn or two before they play one of the big hitting target creatures that lets you get out some creatures instead. It's very good. And if you're able to disable one of those big hitting target creatures, like Montego is the one that comes to my mind. Berbernape also up there. It just is so much value for you power wise. And typically people will try to target Olivkron to avoid getting disabled, which is great because it's like, yeah, target my 1 power creature at the end of the game. So yeah, I think Olivkron is very good. He's S tier. Obviously, he can be played around, but he just requires your opponent to make so many more decisions to avoid that disable. So yeah, Olivkron, very good. I don't know if he's the best. I don't think he's the best, but he is S tier. And if you want to just include Olivkron in your decks, it's like a fine choice. There's literally nothing wrong with including him in any decks, I think. Okay. Nimkin. Nimkin is also A tier. I don't think he's as good as Brookie. Nimkin obviously doesn't target an opponent, like doesn't target a creature, so it doesn't trigger things like Olivkron. But it gives your opponent the ability to choose which creature they withdraw from their sideline, which means that they can just withdraw. Like if you play a Nimkin and your opponent chooses to withdraw Brookie and then plays that Brookie and taunts one of your creatures, it kind of doesn't, give you any advantage versus if you play a Brookie and you taunt the opponent's Brookie, then they can't taunt one of your creatures. So, Nimkin, he's a good disruption. I think he's a solid A tier. It's not like a bad creature to run or anything. Again, if you play him like Brookie, you're basically stopping your opponent from playing 3 level 2s, potentially 2 level 3s, by playing him every round, and hitting a target. But I think Brookie is better just because you get to choose which one you pull forward. Okay. Anyway, that's Nimkin. Moving right along, Omnigon. Omnigon is number 9. I think Omnigon's a C tier. Yeah, I'll put Omnigon as C tier. I don't think he's that good. I think unless you build a deck that specifically you want to force your opponent to draw their cards, Omnigon oftentimes gives your opponent action advantage instead of you. It's very good in combos where you want to force your opponent to draw cards because you have trigger effects that trigger when your opponent draws a card. It's like Screereap, Kodemptha. Both of those love Omnigons. They're also really good in hands where you mulligan to have a lot more level 1s than your opponent, and after your opponent's passed, you get to play your Omnigons, and then you can do things with the cards you draw. Your opponent can't do things with the cards they draw. But again, you got to think about that. Just including Omnigons in your deck, you're just giving action advantage to your opponent. So you kind of got to think when you're deck building with Omnigon, because it can just be better for your opponent than it is for you to play an Omnigon. And sometimes I've been playing. I've played against decks where they've played an Omnigon, and I've drawn the answer I wanted right off the top of my deck, and was able to keep going. Where before I would have had to pass because my curve was messed up. So he's not the worst. Sorry, Montego, but he's not great, and I think you can kind of fall into this trap because it feels so good to draw cards in this game that you want to include Omnigon, and then you're also just drawing those cards for your opponent, and they don't even need to play a creature to get the card draw. So, a bit of a tricky include. Talk about tricky includes, moving right along to Chowler. Chowler is also C tier. I'm a Chowler sympathizer. I like Chowler. But he is tricky, and I feel like especially for newer players, you include Chowler, you think Exert is great, you exert your own creatures, and you're basically Brookieing yourself, right? You are destroying your own action economy because you play Chowler. And sometimes that's okay, because Chowler lets you prepare for opponent disruption, and if opponent disruption doesn't come, you can use Chowler to save your own creatures off the back line. Obviously, he's a big old 3-power level 1, which endgame never hurts to have. But I think his big advantage is mulligan in the mulligan if you have a lot of level 1s. Again, if you potentially want to play a lot of level 1s round 1, and some of them are Omnigons, and then you have Chowler to basically save your curve because you only have a few level 2s, so you can only turn some of those level 1s into level 2s, and you can use Chowler to pull all the ones that are stranded on your back line, your sideline, up. But yeah, I do think you risk, if you don't know what you're doing, you risk destroying your own economy with Chowler. So use with caution. But I still like Chowler. I like his effect. I like his design. I like all their designs, but I like his effect especially. All right. Now we got the big cheese himself. We got Zimble, S tier. Speeds up your game. Lets you play level 2s in round 1. Crazy. Lets you play a lot of level 2s from a single creature. Crazy. You should always prepare a deck to play against Zimble. And a lot of that means playing Venwurm, but also Brookie, also Naru. There are multiple ways to counterplay Zimble. Also just playing all of, like, Naru, Olivkron, Brookie, all kind of counter Zimble. Olivkron just because he's low power too, so you can open Olivkron, and the opponent can't Zimble retreat out of there. But yeah, Zimble does so much for your economy. If you can set him up right, he can play multiple. He can play multiple level 2s at once in one round. Just all around, just a workhorse for getting your deck out faster than your opponent. So I think if I had to pick the strongest level 1 creature, it'd be between Zimble and Naru. And honestly, a huge argument for Naru's position as best creatures because he does shut down Zimble. So Zimble is very good. Very, very good. Obviously, there are some anti-synergies with big, tough 3-power creatures. If you're playing Zimble, you want your opponent to go first on round 1. So they play the big, tough 3-power creature, and then you get to play a Zimble. But yeah, Zimble just does so much work and can let you do so much with your deck. So if you play Zimble, he's good. Okay, that's enough for Zimble. I'm gonna move on to Grizzler. C tier. Grizzler is really good at countering Daereap, and that's what he does. And sometimes Daereap is really annoying, so sometimes you run Grizzler. Sometimes you run Grizzler with Daereap, and then you catch your opponent off guard once when you make them discard not a level 1, and then you discard a level 1, and you can pick it right back up with Grizzler, and you just earned a little bit of action economy over your opponent. But typically you run Grizzler as a counter to Daereap. And that's that. I think he'll get a little bit more interesting with the next set coming out, from what I've seen. But yeah, and I'm sure there's some things I'm thinking of that he works a little bit better with, but the fact that you're also letting your opponent pick up a level 1 from the discard. There have been some cases where I've been playing against a play from discard deck, and I play a Grizzler, and the opponent gets to pick something up, and I don't, and that feels really bad. So, yeah, he's C tier. He's fine. Include him if you're playing against the Daereap. He's a good sideboard card, I would say. Anyway, moving right along. We only got 3 left. We got Calfarak. I'm going to put Calfarak in A tier. He can do some work. He's a friend of Zimble's. He can disable those Venwurms, those pesky Venwurms that come out. He probably is the most consistent, biggest point swing every time you play him of all the level 1s. Even though he's only 2 power, you disable a big Venwurm, you disable a Naru, that's a 5 power swing. So, yeah, Calfarak is pretty good, all around workhorse. He doesn't necessarily disrupt the opponent economy, which kind of want is why I don't think he's as good as Brookie or Nimkin, but he's definitely, I would say, A tier. Overall, just a good level 1 creature. So yeah. Okay. Last 2 here. We got Mammo. D tier. He's fine. He's a little bit worse than fine. Mammo counters one specific creature, kind of. He kind of counters Brookie. Kind of. Because often Brookie can just taunt a different level 1 unless you have all Mammos out. So, yeah. Anyways, that's the only level 1 that Mammo counters, but he is 3 power. He, unlike Felixir or Montego, you know, he does have some utility. He's kind of big. I also think he will get a lot better with this next expansion coming out, but for now, he's sitting solidly in D tier with his friend, number 15, Startle, also in D tier. I think a little bit better than Mammo. Problem with Startle is that he can protect a single creature from all targeted effects. But he's just slow to come out. Like, usually you would want to be targeting someone with an effect instead of playing Startle to protect one creature from an effect. I don't think I've ever actually seen Startle used in a deck. So if you've used them to great success, let me know. There's never been a moment where I've been like, yeah, I want to play Startle instead of playing Brookie or Nimkin or Calfarak or Naru, right? So he seems okay. He just never makes the cut when I'm deck building for reasons that I think protection is just a lot slower than aggression, and it's better to disrupt your opponent's deck than try to protect against their disruption. So, yeah, I think he's D tier. I mean, I think Felixir can sometimes be actively bad. He does something unlike Montego. But again, doesn't do much. Doesn't do much. So, he's in D tier. So, that is the full 15 Alpha Edition level 1s. I'm just going to leave it at this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what I got wrong, what you think I got wrong. Let me know where you agree with me. Why not? What's your favorite level 1? Both in effect and in illustration, because I think there's some really cool ones. I really like Chowler, but I'll be the first to admit, it's not the best. But yeah, let me know what you think are the best. As always, do whatever. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell. Join the Discord, the Elemental Creatures Discord. And let me know what I got wrong there. See ya.